how unofficial this is. Oops, sorry.
Okay.
We could be further away.
Good evening, and welcome to I Got You podcast. My name is Keisha, and I'm here with my co-hosts Heather and Renee, and we're joined by some lovely guests this evening. But before we make the introductions, I just want to say we're bringing to you part one of a two-part series called She Said What? A Woman's Perspective. We ask men, if you had the opportunity to ask women any questions, what would those questions be? And boy, did we have some questions. And that's the reason why we decided to do a two-part series. Before we get started, I would just like to introduce our guest today. Our first guest is Gabrielle.
Hello.
Welcome. Then we have Jamie. And then last but not least, we have Yanika, who is the founder of Let's Talk Purpose. It's focused on mental health. And I just want to say thank you guys for joining us, and let's get started. Our first question from the guys is, what is love to you? They want to know what women consider love. What's love to you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a really good question. I feel like love differs for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I personally think it's a commitment. It's a feeling too, but it's more so a commitment because marriage is a commitment. Love is just an exchange between two people who decided how they like to have life together, if you will.
So do you think so? Is that you're saying it's a choice? When you said do you think it's a choice?
I believe it's a choice. I believe love is a choice. Absolutely. Well, we're talking about with men. So yes, I feel like love with men is a choice. If it's your kids, I don't think you have a choice. It comes from, it's innate. So it's different, but.
Right.
Okay. What about you, Gabrielle? What do you think that?
For me, I feel like it's more of, I guess, it's more of a decision, like to kind of choose to love someone because you're choosing to come together to have experiences and, like experience different things with that person. So for me, I don't feel like it's just a feeling. It's almost like an agreement that we're coming together to jump into, and experience different emotions and just experience different things together. So for me, that's what love is. And it's not necessarily, like just like being intimate with someone, because you can, like not be intimate with someone and still love them, the opposite sex. So for me, it's more of the experience and the agreement to kind of share experiences and feelings together.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You know what, too, though? As she was talking, something else came to mind. The question that the first person, what's her name?
Keisha?
Gabrielle.
Keisha. You're Gabrielle? Right. The first person Gabrielle asked, the question, if it's a choice. And, sometimes you think about it, you meet a lot of people in life, but you don't really have a choice in who your heart wants, or who your heart falls for.
Yes.
So in respect to that question, it's probably a no. Because there are times when you probably like somebody, like, I don't want to like him. I don't want to like him. But, it's just him. Like, that's who your heart wants. So you probably don't necessarily have a choice. You have a choice in who you date, but not necessarily who you fall in love with.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Interesting.
What about Jamie? What do you think?
For me, love is an action. Feelings are not absolute. Feelings lie to you. They come and they go. They're fleeting, and they're misleading. So for me, love is not what a person says or even what I feel, but it's the things that I do and the things that are done to me. Because oftentimes there's great lip service and the actions don't follow.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
That's true.
Too.
So one of the biggest, guys, they tend to want to know, the biggest misconception you think men have about women. Biggest misconception.
I would say, to me, I think the biggest misconception would be men don't like, they don't really know the reasons why like women stray from their relationships or things happen in the relationship. I think that's the biggest misconception. It's either they don't want to deal with like the truth or the reality of it, or they just completely don't know because they always think it's something completely different than what it actually is. So to me, I feel like that's, when it comes to men, that's the biggest misconception. They don't understand why women do the things that they do.
Or probably they don't take the time to understand.
That's it. And I agree with that, Keisha. I don't know that they take the time to understand. I mean, there are things I imagine that are probably confusing because I have found later on in life, unfortunately, that oftentimes I'll feel something and I won't communicate it, but I like to think that, you know, because of my attitude, you can read it or you know what I'm saying, because you know when I act this way, that's what I mean, but I'm not saying it. So in that respect, it's a little different, you know, just not communicating it, but, you know, acting it out. So yeah, I get it a little bit on their side. 1 point for the men.
Yannicka, that's a beautiful name, by the way. I think that a lot of times we fall into that pattern of, well, he or she should know how I feel because look at my face, look at my body, and they should know exactly what's on my mind. I think a lot of us are guilty of that. I think one of the misconceptions, or not really a misconception, one of the things that I've learned is that men and women communicate completely different.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Completely different. So I don't know if I would say it's a misconception as much as it is a misunderstanding.
Okay.
Because women can say a statement, and you can have a guy say the same statement, and they mean two completely different things.
Right.
I've had that happen. I've gone to Heather and say, girl, look at what such and such said. And then I asked one of my guy friends, and they tell me two completely different things. I'm like, y'all, this cannot be this hard. Like, it's the same statement, but two completely interpretations of that
Perspective.
Yeah, but that's a matter of perception, because we can both look at the same thing, but if we're seeing it from different lenses, because our experiences or the things we go through in life, you know, impact how we view things. So I think it's a matter of perception at that point, which kind of make it seem as if it's a misunderstanding or a misconception.
Which is to actually talk about those things that I learned this in therapy.
Yay for therapy.
Oh yes, yay for therapy.
just go. It's phenomenal. I think everyone can benefit from it. But one of the things that I know from therapy is when I'm communicating with someone, especially of the opposite sex, because I feel like I can understand females better because I am a female. But when I'm communicating with someone, to say what I thought I heard. So if someone says to me, you know, I don't feel like you are understanding what I'm saying, and this is why, then I would then say, what I heard you say was, and explain what I heard, and give them the opportunity to say whether my interpretation of what they said was correct or if I was completely off.
Right.
And helped me so much with communicating, because it just takes out the guessing game.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's true.
And so one of the things that men say, they want to be honest with us, but they're wondering, can we really accept honesty? Do we really want honesty when they're willing to be honest?
I think I feel like that's it's different for like each individual. It goes on an individual basis, because like for me, I feel like I'm brutally honest, so I would rather honesty, whereas some people may think they want honesty, but they don't really want it. They would rather someone sugarcoat it, or at least deliver it in like a nice little package to actually make them feel better. So I think it all depends on the person and what the situation is.
What about you, Yannicka?
I agree with what she's saying. It does depend on the person and the situation. I share your sentiments as well. I think I'd prefer that someone is direct. And I found that sometimes maybe I'm too direct. You know, it comes off a little too, you know, but I found that I don't want to leave things up to interpretation. But again, even with being direct, you can misinterpret. So, you know, there's always room for interpretation. But I would prefer that the communication is direct. But I don't feel like I don't think they think we can handle the truth. When in all honesty, I don't think they can.
Right.
Right.
it's really the reverse, because I think we're more able to take it, absorb it, even process it. We'll probably talk to our friends, get advice from somebody else, so we kind of bounce it off of different people. I don't know that they do that. It would be nice if we had a panel with men here so they could answer it, but yeah.
We will.
Yeah, but also I feel like I would rather know, and because for me, the decision is up to me to deal with whatever the situation is. Don't make decisions for me by withholding the truth from me. Give me the information, and what I do with it is entirely up to me. But to not know the truth, to me, I feel like you're ultimately just making that decision for me. You're choosing not to tell me the truth because you think I can't handle it.
So do you think that's part of the misconception that women?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's why they don't tell us the truth.
Yeah.
They think we're gonna feel like they need to sugarcoat it, or we can't handle the truth.
Right.
Because they said if a couple of them said if we're overweight, right, and we ask them, are we overweight? We can't handle them saying, babe, yes, you might need to lose a little bit of weight. So would you be able to handle that if your man said that to you?
Yes, because I feel like my man should know how to deliver that truth to me. Because as they say, you have to be responsible with the truth.
Exactly.
You understand what I mean? That's all it is. If you're going to tell someone the truth because you have to, it's the right thing to do, you have to be able to deliver the truth in a way that they'll be able to receive it. Because everybody's different. What works for one may not work for another. But just be responsible with the truth and how you deliver it.
Right.
Especially if you ask the guy for the truth. So if you ask for the truth, expect to get the truth and expect to be able to handle the truth.
Exactly.
But you remember we spoke about with the guys, like if you can communicate the truth in a very loving way, sometimes it can come across differently than if you say it in an unloving way. So we spoke about that. It's kind of how you deliver it, as Gabrielle was saying.
Yeah.
That's very important. Yeah.
But I think you may need to explain. I think me saying deliver it in a loving way does not necessarily translate to the guy who is hearing what I'm saying. I think you may need to give him an example of what that means to you. Because I don't believe that guys typically, in general, I don't necessarily think it's guys, I just think in general, you may need to be able to give examples of what that means or how that looks to you. Because loving to him could be different than loving to you.
That's good.
That is a very, very valid point, Renee. You're so right. And that transcends into so many other areas, like, for example, say they dated someone before you and she may like flowers. Every girl doesn't want flowers. I might like jewelry, and without communicating that, if you don't communicate to let them know what it is that you like or how it is that you like it, or, just letting them know directly and receiving it back, then they'll interpret it in their own way. And if you leave them to interpretation, then we're getting what the other person and the person behind that gets, because all they know is their history, what their experiences are, the things that they've overcome. And with you, it's a new challenge because you could be with somebody for 20 years and still learn things about it. Right. So it's one of those things you kind of have to let them know how, or demonstrate what a loving way is to you so they can in turn, reciprocate.
Yeah, that's a great point. So the next question, which I think is a good one, is what is the most important quality you look for in a man?
Wow.
Empathy. I would say empathy. Ooh. I think anyone who's empathetic, they can deal with any given situation, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You said empathetic. Would not expect that, right? I
didn't expect that either.
Expecting that at all.
Why, Renee? Why?
Because I feel like I think that response goes deeper. It's like it's not a surface response. And obviously it depends on Gab's experience to determine why she said that, right? But I think that saying empathy is like digging deeper into feelings and dynamics, etc. So that's why I wasn't really kind of expecting that. Okay. It's like a psychiatrist type of response.
we're still
Well,
thinking.
that's important to me because for me, my mental stability and my peace of mind and serenity is so important to me. So for me, that's the most important thing. If you can't understand me and how to deal with me or my emotions when I'm having good days or bad days or dealing with family, with whatever the stresses of life. So I feel like empathy is just for me, like the one thing that covers everything else is empathy.
Yes. Yeah, I
Interesting.
agree. Yanika?
I see. I'm thinking about it, kind of like Renee. I didn't expect that response, but as I listen, the last part of what you said is probably what resonates the most. That empathy kind of encompasses everything else. Because when I think about like, I'd like for a man to have compassion. I can't find one word, so now I'm thinking, does empathy really sum it up to everything that I need?
You have
I'm
the
really kind of
compassion. You
thinking
have
about that, right? Because empathy, yes. So I don't know. I admire so many things. I admire the physical traits, but I admire a lot of good qualities, like someone who is very respectful. I don't know if empathy falls under that guideline, but someone who's respectful to a woman, to their mom, to their sister. I find that to be very big on my list, and empathy is also very big on my list as well. Compassion, I can't say there's any one thing, and I don't know if respect falls under empathy, but I like a man who can be romantic too. I like a man who knows he's a man. I like a man that knows his role. I'm not sure what category that falls under, but I need him to make a decision and stick with it, So
you need a leader.
I do need a leader. I mean, I'm still going to try to run the house. Let's not mistake that part. But I need you to know when it's your turn, I feel like I know when it's my turn, because if I see that he's weak, but then that's how I think. I see beyond just the surface. So if I see that he's weak, I try to be stronger in that area to be that support for him. So it's kind of like I expect that to be reciprocated, So there's not just one, but empathy is good.
Right.
Empathy does encompass compassion and understanding and respect, because if you can empathize, if you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and feel what they're feeling, then you're more inclined to treat them better, to help them in their journey or whatever that emotion is that they're experiencing. And I would not have thought of empathy either, because I'm sitting here thinking like, well, dang, I don't know which one to.
Exactly.
There's so many on the list.
There are.
So important. And if a man is empathetic, then it's I don't know if this is uncommon or not, but in my experience, men that I've dealt with I find it hard to be vulnerable. Find a man who can empathize with you. That I feel like that's another level of vulnerability, that you have someone that you can in the middle with. You can experience the same things together. And so I don't want to take Gabrielle's thing, but she's right. Like, it encompasses so many traits. So I Gabriel.
It's interesting, right? Because I was expecting at least somebody, I think Yanika mentioned it, but I was expecting more of, I expect a man to know how to lead, or, assume that type of role. But nobody touched on that, which is interesting, right? Because that's kind of how I look at it. That's one of the most important things to me. But as you guys mentioned, empathy kind of covers or encapsulates a lot of those other things. But yeah, interesting.
I don't know if are women really ready for men who can lead? Because we get beat up a lot by the word of submission. Oh, you're supposed to be.
Ooh,
that word is like a trigger.
Ask that question then.
Okay, Jamie, say that again. Say the last part again. I didn't hear you.
That word being submissive is a trigger for me. Because I feel like people have, I won't necessarily say men, because it's not just men. People have weaponized that word and they completely misuse and abuse that word. And so it's almost like if someone mentions the word, well, you need to be submissive, it's almost like they're saying, well, you need to be my slave or my doormat. No, no, no. So, submission and leadership are two different things, but I feel so since that word has been misused so much, when a guy is, or when a woman is saying, I want a man to be a leader, what are we really asking for?
But to your point, Jamie.
Here's I think I do agree with you as it relates to the misuse of the word. And I think people need to figure out what they mean when they say that. And you know, the personality I have would not, obviously I would not be a slave to anyone, right? But I too use that word because of my spiritual background. And as it relates to what I believe and me using the word submissive, it's more so the fact that I know my role in the familial structure, if you may. And in my eyes, a guy is supposed to lead, right? And a guy is supposed to have the vision. And being the empowered woman that I am, I expect to also help you with that vision. So in the interpretation that I know of and I'm familiar with, that's kind of what submission is. But to your point, it's overused a lot of times. So I agree. And I can see why it may be a trigger for you as well.
Well, actually, that was one of the questions that the guys wanted to know. Can women be submissive in a relationship or submissive to a man? So you guys kind of kicked it off perfectly. Gabrielle,
to the right person, I think so. Because I was married before, and my husband used it in a way that it was condescending.
Okay.
You need to be submissive to me. He kept on using those words. You need to obey me and things like that. That, like Jamie said, that's a trigger. So once I heard those words, I shut down. So that submissive, nah, you're not worth me being submissive for, because you need a leader. You need somebody who's going to lead the house. And if that man is just not like you said, who was saying that person was weak? If you find that and they kept on using the word, you need to obey me, you need to be submissive to me and my personality, I can't do that.
And men have to also realize as well that you kind of have to earn that role in my life. Not because you're my husband, you are automatically a leader. You have to kind of prove yourself and show yourself to be that. And to prove yourself that you can take care of me, submitting to you as a leader.
Right. And
I agree with that too, Renee, and I agree with a lot of what I think Keisha just said. Submission. It's funny when men ask that question. I don't know that they really understand when they're asking. What are they really asking? Because I heard everybody's comment, and the truth is, in a lot of ways, there are a lot of men who think it means, just listen to what I say or do as I do, which doesn't happen.
Right.
This whole, it's different. While I've heard all of those terminologies, I'm not necessarily fazed by the word in any way. In fact, I can't wait. Give me a reason to submit.
Right.
I feel the same way. I need you to, if you get it together, you will not have a problem.
Exactly.
Submission will be your, but a lot of times too, I found in relationships that I have to communicate. Like, I feel like if you're on the same page when it comes to like even spirituality, I want a man of God who loves God the way he's supposed to. Because for me, if you submit to God that way, then you'll be able to look at me the way I need to be looked at. You know what I mean? Because if you submit to God and God made me, then he knows how you need to talk to me so I don't twist my neck, So I feel like with men, if I found someone who was that person, who would encompass this leadership role where I trust what he says, how he does what he does, and even with correction, to be able to open to correction, to say, that's a good point you made, or, let me handle this, you got that, you know what I mean? Because leadership doesn't mean you always take the leading role. You also sometimes have to step back and let someone else take the role, because, it's a give and take. So I think in that respect, if I see someone doing that, listen,
right,
I'm ready to submit, like all day, every day. But I cannot submit to somebody who's going left.
Right.
So I think what does that mean to the men? You know, we need that definition first.
Do you think submissive, to be submissive and being vulnerable, does that go hand in hand?
Not necessarily.
Oh.
Not necessarily. No.
No,
Okay.
Not.
Different things.
it does not. Vulnerable is a whole other level, I think.
I'm sorry, you were speaking, Annika?
No, go ahead, Jenny.
I disagree because if I'm going to submit to someone, I need to be able to trust them. And in order for me to trust someone, I have to be able to share my vulnerability. Because you can't fully trust someone if you're not vulnerable. If you're not able to be vulnerable with someone, that means that you've not completely opened yourself up to them.
Yes.
So for me, I do feel like it goes hand in hand.
Okay.
And you know, from my experience, I actually had a preacher say to me, he said to my ex-husband, if you have to say that you're something, then are you really? Because his thing was, I'm the husband. He's being on his chest. I'm your husband. You're supposed to submit to me and follow my lead. And I'm like, you haven't given me any reason to follow your lead. You know, so to hear another man say, if you have to continue to say that you are something, then are you really that thing that you're saying? And for me, if I don't have a problem with following, I don't have a problem with having someone in that role who knows how to be in that role and not abuse it. I have a problem with the people who use that word, who weaponize it.
Right.
That is true. That is true.
Many people misuse that word and don't know anything about what it means and how it's supposed to be utilized in the construct of a relationship.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, good point. So the next question, I love this one. Financially broke in a loving marriage or financially comfortable in a broken marriage?
I'll
Listen,
take
you can only choose either one.
I will let.
I'd say this: if marriage to me is in that section, financial stability is very important. Let me just start with that. Very, very important. However, if I had to choose, I'd much rather be happy than financially went off and miserable. Because if the marriage is broken, you're miserable. I've done miserable.
Not going back there.
Not going back there. Not going back there. So yeah, for me, if it comes to it, I'd prioritize financially is good. And, you know, I pride myself on being financially stable as well. However, I would prefer to have a happy, solid marriage than have everything the way it needs to be financially stable.
Okay, can we just not choose at all? Why do we have to compromise?
I'm with you.
Life is a compromise.
I don't want to have to compromise. Why can't I be happy in a financially stable marriage? Like, why does it have to be one or the other? For me, financial stability is important, and my happiness and inner peace is as equally important. So I don't want to have to choose. We're going to have to find a happy balance.
Medium.
And we're not doing the broke marriage thing, and we're not doing the unhappy marriage thing.
No, we're not. No, I agree with you.
Jamie, what do you think?
So finances have been in the top few reasons for divorce.
Yes.
Because if you're broke and you're worried about how are you going to put food on the table, how are these bills going to get paid, then how are you able to really enjoy the person that you're with?
Right.
Kills, like literally kills. So I don't know if it's, I mean, how broke are we talking? Are we talking ramen noodles tonight?
We're talking broke, girl.
No, broke.
All the way broke.
Oh.
Yeah,
love don't pay the bills, honey.
Don't.
So you can't really be
Amen,
happy
Gabrielle.
if you're struggling. That's
I agree.
that's a non-star for you. And from experience, a man who doesn't feel like they are close to where they want to be in life, they're still climbing that ladder to being who they feel they have to be successful, to be the man. They're not able to be who they want to be for you.
Right.
True.
You're gonna be miserable. You can't be broke and happy. I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either.
Money, we can go get that money together,
Okay.
hustle for
There you
life,
go.
work, make the dream work. But we can't be broke. We can't be eating ramen noodles every night.
Teamwork.
So talking about broke, if a man makes more money than a woman, do you still consider him the leader of his household?
Okay, I don't believe that the amount of money that he makes is what,
His leadership
yeah, and
style.
like, yeah, like give him the title of being the leader of the household. I feel like, the household is a partnership, and
Okay.
we have different roles, and you know what I mean, in the partnership. However, the amount of money you make, you should be able to support your household and be the leader of that household. But the amount of money you make does not necessarily make you the leader of the household.
But finances do play a big part, and I think a lot of women do view men who make less, and I'm not speaking for every woman, that they kind of view them in a bad light, as not that. I don't know. What do you think, Jamie?
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
I think it's because we've been culturally conditioned to feel that way or to think that way. I don't think it's necessarily that we view men who make less money. I think a lot of the time when men make less money than women, you have to also deal with, their self-esteem and everything else that comes with that, because they have issues with themselves. So that creates other issues. But I don't necessarily think, that's what it is.
Right.
I agree 100%. I've been in that situation, and you're right, they're not happy with themselves, because I was in it, and for a lot of the relationship I was defending my past relationship, because that person made more than he does. Like, I'm in a new relationship, why do we keep repeating, my past,
Yes.
But he felt insecure at the fact that he didn't make as much money, which clearly it's not an issue. I mean, it is an issue, but we could have moved past it if you just look at the right now, and deal with the now. But a lot of men, knowing that they're supposed to be, the macho or
Right.
the ego, makes them feel like, because I can't provide, then, I'll attack everything else. So they kind of also have to be confident within themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I think she said, I think, was it Jamie who said finances are like the number one reason for divorce? I think insecurity is the number two reason, because insecurity, it's like a poison in your relationship. And if your man is insecure, it's a problem. If the woman is insecure, it's a problem. So the insecurity part is just a poison altogether.
That's
I
true.
agree with you. If you can squelch all insecurity on both parts, it doesn't matter who makes more money. It doesn't matter what anyone says. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters, because you're secure enough in yourself and in your relationship to know that you guys are going to be good regardless. I've been seeing a lot of. Well, I actually had a guy friend of mine come and ask me. At the time when I was married, I was making more than my spouse, and his wife was in a position where she could potentially make more than him. So he literally pulled me to the side and asked me, how did that work in our household? And I was like, you, for real? Like, you worried about her potentially making more than you? Like, seriously? For me, in my mind, if we're together, if we're married, what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. So if we're building, we're building. It doesn't matter. And who has to know outside of you and I? Nobody's in our pictures. Nobody's in this household like that. So why does that even matter? And it boils down to insecurity. And I think the social just environment that we grew up in, since being a child, since centuries ago, the man is supposed to be the breadwinner. The man is supposed to provide. And we've held on to that. But in the Black community, the Black women are the ones who are getting the degrees. The Black women are the ones who are entrepreneurs. The Black women are out here hustling, and our Black men are keeping up. So now you have this added pressure on top of what society says a man is supposed to do, and it's not helping us at all. It's not. I think the conversation needs to be had that it's not about money. Now we can't struggle now. We can't struggle. And I can't take care of no grown man.
That's not happening.
Can't do that either. But what it's about is us being a team. Everything's not supposed to be on one person. That's not the way relationships are designed to be. So I think we connect on who makes the bigger amount and focus more on how are we going to make this money work for us as a team.
Absolutely.
We're talking, Jamie. I think too, it kind of causes sometimes, I think, role reversal in the sense of the man feels like, well, because he makes less, he probably should do more around the house. I'm not opposed to it, but but it's like there's some men who will still not be a provider, not be a lot of things that they probably should, and they still get to work and come home and cook and come home and do all these things. And I'm thinking, this is not the days in the Bible when the men went out, and got the food and the woman stayed home. I'll do those things if you're the sole provider. But if I have to go out to work, then we're going to share this responsibility. So, it just depends. But I've seen a role reversals a lot when the men don't make as much. They feel like well, they got to compensate some other way.
Think to that. Next.
Guys think that good girls like bad boys. Do you guys like bad boys?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, they got to be both.
Oh yeah.
All of us.
Yes. I need to know when we go out, if somebody bump me, just your presence alone will shut everything down. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I think when you talk about bad boys, I think what automatically comes to mind is a protector, right? And women are looking for that protector. And as Gabby said, at the end of the day, when something pops off, you can't have your man be running before you. Be out the door before you.
Yes.
Right. You need that guy who, if he needs to step up, he'll step up. So I think when we think about bad boys, I think what automatically comes to women's head is that protector. And obviously there are other things as well.
But
they go into him being, edgy or whatever it is that you're looking for that will bring some sexual appeal to you. But at the forefront is him being a protector.
But a lot of men think bad boys, or some women that I've asked, they think bad boys are the thugs.
Oh no.
A lot of men and a lot of
honey.
Women want bad boys, and it's the thugs, it's the drug dealers, it's the ones that's doing stuff, and they're not understanding. So again, probably a misconception. They don't.
Definitely a misconception. Yeah.
Our preference. It doesn't have to be. It's whatever it means to you, right? So if you want a drug dealer, if that's your definition of a bad boy, and that's what does it for you, then have it to you. That's not what it means to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a persona. It's like, it's the confidence, and you know what I mean? Because a lot of the time I feel like you don't have to be violent, or you don't have to be a thug or any of those things, but your presence and the way you carry yourself as a man, that in itself, people won't try you. It's like, okay, you know what? This man right here, he's respected. Like, you won't even think twice. For me, that's what I like. I like a man who, who has that persona. He has that confidence. And, just his presence alone lets you know, like, yeah, I'm bad.
100%. 100%.
It's just, I think being a good man, I think men naturally are protectors. Not all of them, but when I think of a man, like when I think of my father, he's not a bad boy, but he's a provider and he's a protector. And he's small in stature, but he has the voice that will ring through any room.
Yes.
And you know not to mess with his James Milton Marshall. You don't touch his. You don't bother his wife. You don't bother his kids. But so for me, that's what being a man is. When I think of a bad boy, I'm thinking of that guy who is just tipping toeing across the line, probably jumped all the way across the line. We might get pulled over and might spend a couple of nights in jail. That's a bad boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching the series Blacklist. Have you ever seen that? Blacklist?
I've seen it.
So the Sergeant or Agent King's husband was a contract killer who was hired to make. So I found myself thinking like, oh, he's kind of
hot. He is.
I separate myself from myself and be like, Jamie, are you serious? You're literally saying,
oh my God.
Yes.
A real outright killer right now. See, I know I need help.
No, it's
that's what I'm thinking of.
Right. It's just excitement. That's all. You need a little excitement in your life. That's all it is.
So when we had a discussion with the guys, the issue of cheating came up, and a lot of them said they would not take back a woman who cheated on them because they think that women, somehow because when women cheat, it's more on an emotional level than a physical level, and they're really into their feelings about that. Do you agree that women cheat based on emotions, or is it a physical thing?
Yes.
Emotions, that is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll say this. I think men don't realize, what they do. For me, when they cheat, it's like a betrayal because you shared something of mine with someone else. It's like a private moment. So for me, it's just like, it's a no-no. But I've often said this. The day that I do, it's because the emotional attachment or whatever is gone. Right. Because as long as I'm attached to you emotionally, I couldn't see myself, somebody else touching me or the things that you do to me, that you so quickly share with someone else.
Right.
I can't give that. So I don't have that in me to give it to somebody else if I don't feel a connection. So I think women are usually led more so by their feelings while men just, hey. You got
I think men need to realize that when, like, if a woman cheats and they know that it's emotional, then why are they not seeking to to fulfill the woman in that emotional way so that they don't have to cheat? I think they need to ask themselves the question. They should be asking women, why do we cheat? And because it's emotional. No, fulfill us emotionally. That's what they need to do. It can't just be like, oh, okay, well, guess what? At the end of the day, there are a lot of things that men do, that mess with our emotions and kind of make us crazy. And we have hormones and all these things go, on our minds. And they don't take that into consideration because they think, oh, because they do it is physical. And it's like, oh, well, if my woman cheats, it is because she's attached to another dude or she have feelings for him or whatever, then I'm done. But it shouldn't be that way. You need to get to the root cause. You need to find out, okay, why is it that I'm with this woman and all of a sudden she's with this other dude? That's what they need to find out. So they need to ask themselves that question, or why are they not willing to fulfill us emotionally so that we.
So here's the interesting thing that I just realized is that remember you were going back to saying empathy, Gabby?
Mm-hmm.
When guys are, that's what you look for. Mm-hmm. That kind of goes into what you just said, because if we're having an emotional situation where if that's the assessment by men to say we cheat because of emotions, if they empathize with us and put themselves in our situation, then they'll be more apt to fulfilling that aspect of what is missing, right? So back to what you said, which was very pertinent at the time, which nobody really thought about, was the fact that empathy is like a big quality that you're looking for, because once a guy can empathize with you, then more than likely he'll be able to fulfill those things that he sees that you need at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
So that's
I'm all the way in or I'm all the way out. I don't have a middle. I don't have it. It's on and off for me. If I'm in, I'm all the way in.
Okay.
Once I'm out, that's it. Stuff can't come get me to bring me back in.
Have you met a lot of empathetic men?
I've met a few, but I feel like at the time I wasn't mature enough to understand that those are the qualities that I was looking for.
Yeah.
But now that I'm older, I realize this is what I've always wanted all this time. But when I actually had it, I took it for granted because I didn't realize at the time that's what I wanted.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. For them bad boys.
Right.
So Is a woman okay with a man who is focused on grinding, meaning that is so super focused on his job and getting money? Are we okay with that?
Yeah, if he's single.
So I know people. I have friends who are with that guy who is all about his money, but those women are lonely.
There you go.
As she said, if he's single.
You know what? Let me go get me a side boo because I need somebody to take care of my emotions.
Right.
There has to be balance in everything that you do.
You're right about that. You're very, very right about that. And balance is in everything. There needs to be a balance, because I feel like if you're in this grind mode, which I applaud 100%, I support 100%, then you also cannot be in a relationship, because a relationship is a commitment, that something that you have to make time for. So and sacrifices. You can't do that and grind at the same time. So if you're trying to build, do that on your own. You know, whenever you're ready and you're done building and you're ready to build this, you know, but they can't run together, because he's not going to have enough time. He's not going to have enough time to spend with you, to pay attention to the things that you need, the little things, you know, and God knows the little things are so much more important than the big things for him.
I think that's almost like a catch-22. I'll play devil's advocate for this one. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, sometimes we do meet people who are there trying to get to, like, if you're already in a relationship with someone and their focus is grinding and they can't sacrifice time or, you know, sacrifice certain things to be with you, for me, there has to be an understanding. Okay, are you grinding so that you can propel our lives to the next level? Like, what's the grind all about? Because you have to have the grind can't just be forever. You're every day you're out grinding, but yet we're in a relationship. Where's the relationship going? So we have to have an understanding as to, okay, you know what, babe, I'm going to be grinding for the next year so we can make moves. We could do this, we could do that. There has to be a reason for the grind, and there has to be a time frame for the grind. But otherwise, there's no relationship at that point. Yeah. If you're just grinding and I'm over here.
And who you out there grinding? That's the question. You just grinding away.
You have something to say? Go both ways. I mean, the question was asked about cheating, or guys saying that they would not take a woman back if she cheated. But on the flip side of that, men often expect to be kept.
All the time.
These double standards, and cheating is cheating. Whatever your reasons are, cheating is cheating.
Absolutely.
So, you know, like, there shouldn't be we got to stop with these double standards. And the same thing with women in relationships, you know, oftentimes because of what society has told us and taught us, the guy's supposed to be the provider, so the guy's supposed to be out there grinding and hustling. Yeah. But with the women, we are out there hustling too, you know, so it shouldn't be, it's okay for me to go out and build myself, but you have to be at home, or you have to limit yourself. So the understanding goes both ways in all respect, which is why I personally don't really agree with really gender roles anymore. I think everything in a relationship should be, there are some things that I know that I'm not going to do as a wife, because it's just completely not my place. And I know there are some things that my husband's not going to do as a husband because it's completely not his place. But however, when it comes to just simple roles in the house, like I have to cook every night. I'm praying that God bless me with the cook, because I was sure appreciate it. You know?
Me too, girl.
Yes. You know, I don't have to fold the clothes every single day. I do it every day now, and it's getting on my nerves. It's tiring. You know? You don't have to. I like cutting grass. I grew up in the country. I love go out there and cut the grass and do a great job too. Like I feel like we have to get to be more successful. We should move more away from roles and these chains that people have placed on us, so that we can do what we need to do as a team to build.
Yeah, I think people just need to play their position and be a member of the team. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be the role, as you said. It should just be, we're on a team where, you know, like, for example, basketball team, we have the guard, we have the point guard, we have the power forward, and we have the center. Like, as, you know, everybody is on the team, and, you know, we can switch and do different things, but it has to be a team effort. It can't just
Agreed.
be
Right.
Exactly. So to end our discussion, I want to ask the last question. How can a man show you that you are important to him? How does
It's time.
Time.
Yes.
Quality
You know
time.
what? Thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness, because say for example, we were walking somewhere and I saw something, I was like, ooh, I like it, but maybe it's too expensive or something, and then maybe on Valentine's Day you get it. You took the time to notice what I like, and then you went out and got it. So just being thoughtful tells me I'm important to you.
Yeah,
So
Nika,
thoughtful.
Your love language.
I think her love language is gifts.
That too. But just thoughtfulness. I need him to be thoughtful, just always. Or even cooking. I love to eat, if you can't tell. Let me tell you, a man who will just get up and make something or the thing that I like, absolutely. It goes a long way for me.
All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Renee?
Yanika's point, I think that what's important to me is a guy who pays attention. I think that's kind of what Yanika was saying.
Yep.
I think a guy who pays attention to the things that matter to me and show up in those areas, I think that's the best way you can let me know that you care about me, or whatever the case is. And that kind of encapsulates a lot of things, because if I want something, a gift, if I point out a gift and you somehow fulfill that, or what's the sexiest thing for me is a guy who does does stuff around the house, wash the dishes, oh my gosh, fold the clothes. If you can do certain things that that matters to me, and because you're paying attention to me, I think that says the world.
Absolutely.
Heather, what about you, Heather?
I'm with Jamie. Time spent.
Yeah.
Time spent. Time is my thing.
Well, that's awesome. Well, this was a great discussion. I thank you all for being here and sharing your time with us. I just want to encourage you guys to log on to our platform, subscribe, like, comment, tell your mama, tell your mama's mama, tell everybody.
Tell everybody.
Tell everybody. And thank you all for being here. Join us for part 2 of the conversation, I Got You podcast. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, girl.